In today's spiritual market, performance and authority often get tangled up, and I want to talk about a name that sits right at the heart of that mess, Adele Tomlin. Now, you might have seen her, framed in candlelight, breathy pauses, tears running down her cheeks. It looks like tantric transmission, maybe even sacred vulnerability. But what if I told you all that drama is less about transformation and more about extraction? Let's break this down like an audit. Not a hit piece, but a forensic, psychological, and yes, erotic dissection. Because when we confuse staged pain for spiritual leadership, we aren't just fooling ourselves. We're opening the door to a new kind of manipulation. First up, the real erotic mentors, the actual professionals. They don't create chaos. They cultivate safety. They know how to arouse without destabilizing, how to listen, how to be exact. Their presence is rooted, their breath slow and grounded. Adele. She trembles when she should ground. Her breath doesn't transmit clarity, it's just drawing your attention into her own unresolved hunger. The sacred feminine, in its true form, never begs to be pitied, and it doesn't whimper for worship. From a clinical perspective, Adele's transmissions follow a predictable loop, suggest arousal, collapse into grief, and then claim persecution. It's a confusion loop. It destabilizes, hooks you in with empathy and erotic intrigue, and then drops the hammer with moral guilt. You think you're witnessing spiritual depth, but really it's just an energetic siphon. You don't walk away empowered. You walk away entangled emotionally and psychically. And I'm not saying this as some aloof critic. Many of us believed in women like her. We were drawn in by the tears, the ache, the whispers. It looked like the sacred feminine. But then we realized the performance never ends. There's always a new heartbreak, a new silence, a new gasp to reframe as grace. It never lands, it just keeps you circling. Here's the harsh truth. Adele isn't transmitting, she's projecting. She's elevating her own hunger and pain, then dressing it up in mystical language so she never has to take responsibility. That's not erotic maturity. Real maturity means you can feel without feeding. You can arouse without collapsing. You can attract without extracting. Adele skips all that. She uses sacred to hide her own fragility, and that makes her dangerous. Let's get even more blunt. Imagine Adele was pitching her act to an actual erotic marketplace. Her profile? It is anchored in heartbreak, moaning in transmission. What is her voice clip? Oh, they fear the feminine. They fear the sound I make when I break. Let's hear what others say about her. Adult film director would say, no composure, craves validation more than camera presence. Intimacy coach would say, too emotionally volatile to sustain arousal safely. Consent educator would say, romanticizes trauma, confuses exposure with empowerment. Erotic dom would say, feeds on chaos, can't hold polarity without collapsing. She wouldn't be cast, and not because she's too spiritual, but because she's just too unregulated. Even porn has standards. Adele wouldn't pass the interview. She doesn't have the maturity, skill, or integrity to hold others through desire. She confuses the room and calls it sacred transmission. Here's the dissection. Adele doesn't regulate. She collapses. She doesn't channel. She leaks. She doesn't initiate. She extracts. Real erotic labor? It's about containers, knowing the boundary between longing and manipulation, presence and collapse, transmission and trauma reenactment. Adele Tomlin is not a leader. She's a performance, wrapped in Dakini language, made addictive by sexual cues and the martyr complex. Dangerous not because she's seductive, but because she's convincing while confused. And I know this critique will be called cruel or even misogynistic. But the real harm is when someone seduces their audience and hides their hunger behind sacred speech. The real violence is siphoning spiritual attention while offering only psychic instability in return. The women who see through this, they hold erotic charge with composure, mystery without projection. They don't seduce in order to be saved. In Dharma, composure is a sign of maturity. In Tantra, stillness is strength. In true seduction, the body may move, but the mind remains clear. Adele offers none of that. Her transmission is stained with emotional fog and attention-seeking collapse. She's not a Dakini, she is a disruption. And when even women trained in erotic tension say she's unsafe, we must listen. In Asia, we don't destroy reputation casually, but when a figure pollutes the sacred and plays victim while stealing attention, We act, quietly, precisely, permanently. This isn't about sex, it's about power. And Adele Tomlin is no longer allowed to confuse the two. The spell is broken. We don't expose bodies, we expose tactics. And when professionals in the erotic world, a world often looked down on, can see through your act in seconds, that's not an insult, that's the verdict. Adele's act wouldn't survive where real erotic maturity is required. And that means it has no place in Dharma either.